Hello, this is Dale Matthews. This is Inside News. It's Mike Jones joining us, and we're just a few days away from answers to the election. Mike, you looking forward to that or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I'm looking forward to it being over. Quite frankly, it's sort of. I'm maybe I just wasn't paying attention before, but it is dirty. Man, is it dirty? There is some dirty stuff going on.
There really is.
People attack. Yeah, I mean, Dale's being attacked in the IV News. Bill Hunker's being attacked in some YouTube video. Joseph Rice is being attacked. I think everybody's got something going on that they know about that we're probably not even aware of here. But there is a lot of artillery fire going back and forth, and some of it I can make a judgment about. Some of it I can't. I just don't know. I don't know enough about this person to know if some thing that some person claims that applies to that person is true or false or what. I'm just so ready for it to be over because I've been at a large number of candidate events, and I've heard every single one of these people give their spiel, and I've talked to them personally too. So you combine the personal experience with what you've heard them say on the stump, and I've got a pretty good idea who these people are, and I'm just ready to hear. I'm dying to know, with all of this extra content out there, is that going to influence the voters at all? Are they going to, I'm anxious to see who they choose, because being so inside of this process, you're like, well, I know what I think about it, but I have no idea what the layman who's not really paying that much of attention to this is getting from this. And so that's intriguing to me, and I'll be happy to put it to rest next Tuesday.
Well, I can tell you that there's a rumor going around spread by one of the candidates that I'm gay and that I used to live with Sandy Casanelli. Oh, brother. I mean, there are people who either I or Joseph Rice or Bill Hunker occupy free space in their mind, and they just can't stop talking about people who have some kind of idea that maybe there's some reform needed. No, there isn't. I met a guy, I went down to go talk with Tricia Myers, who is the new county clerk, and I just wanted to make sure everything was going to go smooth for our Tuesday night broadcast. How many views did we get last time when we did a broadcast live about the election, Mike?
Yeah, it was like, I want to say it was November 3rd of...
it was almost 3,000 people that watched the show?
It was 2,800, and that's an overnight number. I mean, wow. It was 2,800 people because they were tuning in for one specific purpose, and that is to find out the results. And as soon as
but I'm going to slightly disagree with you because I looked at the stats, and almost all of them stayed for the entire show after we announced the results.
No, I understand that, but that's the reason why they were there. And
yes.
That number was there the next morning and hasn't really changed much since. So they came in, they hit it, boom. They watched all of that program. But this is the interesting part about it is that last May, we did our very first election night coverage, and we got 400 views on that. And we thought, oh my God, that is unbelievable. That's crazy. Well, 2,800 is a lot more than that. That's, Well,
I'm telling people expect 1,000 that way. It's downplaying it just a little bit, yeah.
Right, well, but listen, people have to be just as curious as we are
Yes.
how this thing's going to come out. There's what, 17, 18 candidates, and
17 candidates, yeah, and it will have something to do with the future of this county, and by extension, with the future of what's going to happen with the city. Is there a sweeping change moving through here, or are the forces that believe that things should stay the same going to win? We make predictions every time there's an election, and the only thing I can predict is I believe that there are 6 major candidates, and we've talked with you about that. But who in the heck is going to win? Is it going to be the combination of the city councilors? Is it going to be some, kind of dark horses where you don't know a lot about them? Will it be one of the candidates that is telling you everything he thinks all the time? I don't know. I talked with Bill Hunker again today, and I said, how are things going for you? And of course, he was thinking about these slurs that have been thrown at him. We're all a bit disappointed that there are some true believers out there that'll just say anything, and I guess they're hoping that I ran off to Reno with some kids without parents' permission. Oh my gosh, that's just wrong. Weird stuff. I ran into a guy after I saw Tricia Myers today, and everything looked like it's going to be fine for Tuesday night at 8:01. Tuesday night, 8:01, not our normal time. And after I was done there, I walked out, and there was a guy putting his ballot in the drop box. I don't usually do this, but I said, "Oh, good for you, you're voting." He turned back and he smiled, and I said, "If you don't mind me asking, you don't have to answer, but who'd you vote for position 2? And he said, "Well, I voted for that Dan DeYoung. And I like him. He's a friend of mine from a long time ago." I said, "Okay." I said, "Would I be right in assuming that you also voted for Lily Morgan?" He said, "Yes, I did." And I said, "So you would perhaps anticipate that some of the stands they've taken about property taxes, maybe even the sales tax, would continue on into county government?" He said, "Yes, I sure hope so." I'm at one of the 20%.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, you know what? I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that is the 20%, because as we know, city dwellers, by and large, vote for levies. And so they're not the 20% in that respect. That applied to the sales tax, and I think the sales tax just hit people in a core where they.
Well, he was one of the sales tax people. He was one of those.
He was.
Yes,
okay.
I just was saying that. Yes,
that is a 20%er then. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're not like unicorns. They really do exist, And I was polite to the gentleman, of course.
20% of what's the population of the city of Grants Pass? About 35,000.
It's a blowout by anybody's estimation. 80% no and 20% yes.
No, of course, but I'm saying 20% of 35,000 is still a substantial number of people.
That's right. So what I thought we'd do is at yesterday's weekly business session, Tricia Myers, the new clerk, and she's running for office, by the way. She was asked to come up and explain a bit about the process. Now, most of the people in our audience already know this, but I want you to notice.
So she's not on the ballot until November, though, right?
That's correct.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So
she hoped I didn't miss something.
No. So she came up and she explained how the process works. And you all probably know this, but there were people in the audience, you could tell that they didn't know some of these procedures. But what I really want you to see is Tricia Myers, unlike most of the staff people, realizes that we are also there. You're there. I'm there. The camera's there. Our camera's there. And I think she comes the closest so far of staff members. I've said many times that the staff members should be giving their briefings to us, not just to the imperial elite up on the dais. And she comes the closest to actually addressing the public. And watch how many times she looks over at the camera. I think this is kind of interesting.
Hi, I'm Tricia Myers, the Josephine County Clerk, and we're at approximately 26% return on our ballots for this upcoming May election. And just for a little bit of story of the life of a ballot. So, and the security involved in that is each ballot that is mailed out to a voter has a unique identification, a barcode. And when that barcode is scanned, it pulls up the voter's registration information and it shows that voter's signature. Therefore, when we receive these ballots back, we scan that barcode, it brings up the voter's record where we verify that the signature that we have on file matches the signature that's on that on that ballot. If the signature on the ballot does not match, it goes through 2 other individuals to look at that signature, and if all agree that it doesn't match, the voter gets a letter and has up to 14 days after the election to update their signature in order for their ballot to be accepted and counted. If a voter forgets to sign their ballot, then we send them notification, and they have up to 14 days after the election to come in and sign their ballot, and the ballot will be accepted and counted. As for security within the office, all of our ballots are within rooms that are double locked and sealed, and there's certain protocols as to that there has to be 2 individuals within the office in order to access those rooms. And so also we do have video cameras within the office that overlooks the areas of where our boards work. And the boards are made up of 4 ladies, and they're of differing political party affiliation. And what they do is, after signature verification, they get the batch of ballots. They verify that the number that was given to them from signature verification matches the number of ballots that they have, and that's usually a batch of no more than 300. And so they'll do their first count that they have those ballots. They have the amount that matches what was given to them from signature verification, and then they remove those secrecy envelopes from the pink envelope with the signature, and so those are kept separate, and then the ballot is removed from the secrecy envelope, thereby making it to where it's anonymous as to which ballot belongs to which envelope. And they just backbend those ballots and get them ready to run through our tabulator. And then those ballots are kept in a group, and we have a scanner that comes in, or I myself will scan, or the chief deputy, and we'll scan those ballots in, and the results are kept confidential, or they're not even actually able to be viewed until 8 o'clock on election night, and that's when the first results are given out, just a little after 8 o'clock on election night.
So what we'll do is, on election night, we'll be here. Mike will be at Jones headquarters, and he's going to be talking with someone in general, and I'm going to join them via video hookup, and I'll be in the hallway before 8:01, and Trisha's going to come out, and this time she's actually going to hand me also the numbers.
That'll be a change.
Yeah, that'll be a change, because always in the past, Art Harvey would hand it out to children in the hallway, but not to me. Yes. He was kind of a strange guy. So, and we will tell you before Cajo or anybody else. That guy tries to be first, but we're always first. And so we'll tell you what I like being first. The results are, no matter what they are, there will be a couple of candidates in the hallway. A couple of candidates notable will not be there. They don't want to know immediately. Okay. So then I'll be followed out to my car, my little blue skate, and then I will come on home. Take me about 5 minutes while Mike does his rendition of Swanee River, and I will then join the conversation, and we're going to have a bunch of people come and join us by telephone, including some of the candidates. They've said they will. Win or lose, and they'll have some things to say about what does this mean, and where do we go from here.
I spoke to Brian Pombo here a couple nights ago, and he agreed to sit in with me during that time. And, we can start up a few minutes before 8 o'clock. There isn't any reason why, we can't be having a conversation with Dale while he's standing around waiting. That's kind of the routine. that happens on election nights. And so Brian will be with. I mean, there's no reason why he can't stay the whole show if he wants to.
You know what we should do? Just like they have for a big game, we ought to have a grill outside and maybe some beer. You know, I don't drink a lot of it, and then we could grill up some steaks and some big prawns, and then have that kind of a tailgate party for the election. I love this idea.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Brother. We could have one of the wineries come by, and there's be a lot of whining after this election. That's for sure.
That might be popular. And normally we do our little thing from Republican headquarters across the way. I haven't heard of an invitation from them.
No, they've actually turned us down.
Yeah, I think we're controversial.
We're not Republicans. Yes. That's what a couple of people there apparently said. Well, they're not Republicans. Yeah, so what? Look, 40% of the population, these are rounded off numbers, 40% in our county are Republicans, registered Republicans. About 30% are registered Democrats. And an additional 30%, this is the fastest growing segment in the whole nation, and here too, are non-affiliated. Listen, Republicans, they're biting at your heels, bud. The Democrats aren't getting any bigger, but the unaffiliated are. And Mike and I are unaffiliated.
Well, actually, that's not true.
Yeah, that's right. You were doing
now.
The football fake out here.
I re-registered Republican for the primary here.
Yeah,
but the chances are that the Republican Party hasn't shown any signs of moving around to sanity, so I will probably unaffiliate rather quickly here. I'd love to have a party that in my younger, more idealistic days, I thought that the party actually represented what it said it represented, and that was a problem for me. And I know Republicans know that they have this problem. There's only about 20% of actual Republicans who they know that it's a problem, but to them it's not a problem because they don't like the conservative wing of the party. They want to just be the guy with the R who is in control, just like the D people that are in control. They do the same things. They tax, they spend, they regulate the crap out of everything. Just a real frustrating learning experience for me. And, I would love to, and you know what, even if sanity gripped them, and they did the right thing for one election cycle, you could not, I don't think that you can believe that any party, doesn't matter who you are, Libertarian, Green Party, whatever, that all of these people, the lure of the power and the control and the influence and all of that, I just think it's too much for really most people. You just have to be mentally very strong to resist that and melding to who they are. I'm a radical. I say the whole system has to go. The problem is that bureaucracy controls the government, and bureaucracy is kind of like a partyless entity that
especially here. Yes.
Yeah, and it's they like complexity, they like confusion, they like opacity. It's just crazy. And
they were handing out documents. They posted documents for the Wednesday weekly business session. Once again, a document that's black writing on a black background. You can't read it, and they're not worried about this. They just don't care. So what it really comes down to, and I feel sanguine about this. I feel sangria about this. Listen,
I'd like some sangria.
If people want some change, then they know who to vote for. And if they don't want change,
If
they
they
sure
want
as heck know who to
Go
vote
buy a
for.
pizza with- Go buy
Sorry?
some pizza with $100 bill if you want change. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
It depends on where you go. But,
Yes.
you know, okay, so you get what you want. And this fellow that was there in the courthouse, he wanted more of the same. In fact, more of the city council brand of sameness. Okay, we'll just find out. And it's an honest difference. There are candidates, and we know this, Mike and I especially know this, that you don't know things about them. And we've been very careful not to jump all over their heads and kick them around.
Yeah.
But you have a kind of a second feeling about them, going, you know, that guy makes me feel sort of uncomfortable. Yes, us too, and we know the details, but that's just not what we're going to do.
And it's your responsibility as a citizen. You have oversight responsibility. It's different from every other country in the world where it starts out, we the people. Okay,
yes.
That means you. It really does. You have a responsibility to be as engaged as Dale and I are on this stuff.
And we're doing everything that we can to help you. Look at this stuff up here. Where is it? Look at this.
Right. Yes. In the back of Dale's
we're
head
putting
there.
these things up here, and you can see them. And I'm not jumping on you because you are doing, but your neighbors can see these and they can go, "What did he just say?" Yeah. Well. There's one extreme. I'm an extremist, okay? One extreme will tell you everything they're thinking and everything they're going to do down to the smallest step. The other extreme is, well, I've got new ideas and we're going to have prosperity. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all that you're going to say? And people are voting for that guy. Really?
Yeah, and then there's people, listen, I got to tell you something. The one thing that I have noticed about one particular type of politician or government worker is that they know what they want to do. They know what they plan to do, but they don't think that they can tell you that. In other words, in order for them to get elected, in order for them to get to a place where they can implement their agenda, they have to lie to you about who they are. And that is bothersome to me. Why don't you just lay all your cards out on the table and have people have an opportunity to make an honest choice about something, listen, if you like tax levy, say, I'm a tax levy person, and passionately make your case. And if you're not, the same thing. But I find that in this county, people who are levy people generally will say, oh, yeah, I don't know about that. It may have seemed like a good idea at one time. I just don't know. And then, but anti-levy people will say, yeah, I'm not for that. So
what's amazing to me is that there are people who will say, I believe that we should follow the will of the people. Gotcha on that. I don't want this because I don't want to give money to the county government because they won't tell us how they're spending it. And we've told you this ad nauseum. But I really like that guy's smile. Really?
Oh boy. Yeah. I don't know what I can do for you. Perhaps, I could recommend, keeping up with the Kardashians or something. Maybe that's more, up your alley for entertainment purposes.
Did you just tell people up your alley? That's rude, Mike. This is a family show.
I wasn't making a suggestion. I was yes. Anyway,
right.
I just don't see how, you open the voters pamphlet and you go, oh, look at he looks so nice. Really? I mean, is that how you make anybody who's making a decision based on a photo in here, you're out of your mind. Really? You're nuts. I mean, even the blurb that is put in by them, they put it in there. So you're getting their side of the story. You have to know more than this. You have a responsibility.
Where's this person been? Suddenly you see them a lot when they're running for office, and they tell you some kind of useless things that, oh, well, I'm for safety and I'm for the children. And you only hear from them during the election. How valid is that information? Where have these people been? I know because I see them and Mike knows. And they just suddenly start showing up and then they're there, but they've got nothing to say. This just happened recently, and there was something that Keith X said that was just like, oh, completely wrong. And there were people in the audience, candidates in the audience, who knew it was completely wrong. And just like Simon here, they sat there and said nothing.
Okay,
what kind of commissioner would that be?
Yeah, in fairness to those people, though.
They want to get elected.
No. In fairness to those people, what happened there is Keith Heck said all that in his protected time. There was no opportunity for these people to get up and say anything after. Now, they could have bum rushed him after the weekly business session was over and said, hey, you're wrong about that. You know,
right.
I suppose they could have done that.
Well, depending on who's voted in, that'll be the end of commissioners' protected time, and it'll be the end of meetings in the little back room, and we'll see. We'll just see. Now, so today, at today's meeting, I have a still. It's just a still, and here it is. And so I'm not going to go through the whole dang thing with letting them speak for like 9 minutes about what can be said in 30 seconds. But here's what happened with legal counsel and with the 3 commissioners there. Simon Hare wanted to change the agenda. Now, this whole talk now is for people who care about the way that things are done. And that may not be your deal, but it is partly my deal. What is the procedure? Simon Hare said, well, I'm going to need to leave a little early, and so I'm wondering if we can change the agenda. Well, okay, sure, we can accommodate you. I want to talk about something that's not on the agenda. Not on the agenda. I don't like that kind of thing. Not on the agenda. That means that nobody out in the public had any idea that Simon Hare was going to bring this up. The commissioners did not know that Simon was going to bring this up. Any documentation that he had, nobody could possibly look at because he didn't have the documentation. That's secrecy. Legal counsel is sitting right there with them. They might as well just have had an executive session. That's secret from everybody because nobody knew what Simon was going to say. That kind of thing, I think, needs to stop. No matter how the election turns out, it needs to stop. So Simon mentioned something, and actually the details don't matter to me as much as the procedure for it. And he said, well, let me introduce it to you. Have you read this? And Keith said, yeah, I looked at it. And Cheryl Walker didn't even have a chance to see the documentation. And Wally Hicks has been working on it for a couple of days. A couple of days. So Simon mentions this thing that needs to be done right away. It needs to be done right now before he leaves. And so, although Keith had glanced at it and Cheryl had not seen it at all, and they were just going on a few words from Simon during a meeting where nobody knew they were going to talk about it, they decided that they were going to do it. And did they take a vote? No. Why would you bother taking a vote? They just decided just to do it. And so they signed a document that went out the door based on Simon's couple of sentences, and they didn't even bother to vote. How's that for transparency?
Yeah, that's weird. What was the nature of said?
Well, as I was saying, I don't think it really matters a lot, but the nature of the thing was the Association of ONC Counties, has decided they're going to send some kind of letter off to the people with whom they're negotiating for more control over our forests. Good goal. And Simon figured that it would be a good idea to send along a letter from the Board of County Commissioners saying, me too. Okay, nothing wrong with that, except this is a little backroom meeting. No public input is allowed. No public input was possible. They didn't even bother taking a vote. This is imperial-style government where they know what's best for us.
In other words, it should have been on an agenda that was public knowledge, and and then that would allow people to be there and observe, had they known.
At the very least, I agree, sir. Yes. So that's what happened at today's meeting. There were a number of other things that weren't that controversial, but that one I think was. Now, there's one other thing, and this is a little piece of audio from a city council meeting with a fellow that that where I've taken the audio off. And here's this guy, and he's talking about the Allen Creek area. Okay. Well, the city is in a bit of a quandary at the moment because maybe you recall, the Allen Creek area is going to need to be something where they take land away from people without their permission.
Yeah.
There are some people there who do not want to sell. And so they call it a resolution of necessity, which just is a bunch of blathery lies. It is eminent domain. Now, when you look at this plan, it's a straightforward kind of landing strip or drag strip. It's straight. Mm-hmm. The commissioners made it very clear that they did not want something that was super straight on this, because what's going to happen is as soon as people drive down that, they're going to be driving fast. And if you put in bumps or you put in turns or whatever, then it's going to slow them down a little bit. And there are people there that are very concerned, probably for legitimate reasons. I happen to like being able to get from one place to another quickly, but I understand they live in a community where kids are playing outside, dogs are out there, grandma's walking with the walker, and they don't want a straight strip. And the commissioners made it absolutely clear to this guy and to the Grants Pass City Council that they would not get the approval from the commissioners if they made it a straight pass. And guess what they've done? Straight.
Yeah, odd. Hey, a little off-topic thing here. The Live Rogue, the new emblem that is now featured on that video. I seem to recall that there was the controversy about the Live Rogue tagline on there was that they were only going to use that in for the purpose of luring people from the outside, and that we would have some sort of separate tagline that was for the local folks here.
That's right.
And now there it is, right there on so they're married to it, and whatever other tagline they were talking about, I guess is just going to go away.
Yeah, of course, Mike has asked me, and others have said, well, who cares, really? The reason we should care is this is a fairly benign kind of subject. Wait till you see the big orange signs. They're bigger than this, and they're going to be plastered all over town, and they're bright orange. I think that when people see that, they're going to go, what is this? Okay. The people made it very clear that they hated this idea. And the Grants Pass City Council, with John Bowen leading the way, who's being paid the money, decided that they loved the idea. Now, it doesn't matter what you think. And this started with, in my opinion, with Mark Bartholomew saying in the court, we could revoke your vote at any time. We don't even need to have you vote. And they've decided that the people are insane. Dan DeYoung decided this. The mayor decided this. Roy Lindsay decided this. The people are insane because they don't like the idea promulgated by this John Bowen, and they don't like the little groups of art lovers or whatever that decided with the city council that they love this idea. They're going to do it no matter what anybody thinks, and one mitigating thing, we're only going to use that on the outside. No, they're not. And you knew it had to be a lie right from the beginning. They don't care what you think. Now, what can we do about that? Well, if you want to replace 4 city councilors and the mayor, it's a start. But the people who are making everything happen are the staff people. I mean, that's where the replacement councilors came from, staff recommendations. They all think of the same. And so what kind of influence can people in Grants Pass or even in the county have? The only thing that they have is if they get a couple of people in who are fiscal conservatives, who, and in my opinion, and if you have another one, send us an email, and they would say, well, listen, they would go to these city council meetings and say, look, you're full of beans.
Right.
That's not a straight shot, but at least it's somebody in power. What a stupid thing, in my opinion. It's got to be somebody in power. Why isn't it the citizens? Well, it's not. They're not going to listen to us. In fact, they did listen. People showed up in force, and they did it anyway. This is government out of control government. Sometimes I'm referred to as out of control journalists, whatever that's supposed to mean. They are out of control government, and you have no say over what they're going to do. Do you like it? I don't.
Yeah. You know what? I think that more and more, the way I see it is that even if we get people in there, you have very little control. What is the issue? And to me, it seems as though it is that bureaucracy. There's sort of what I want to refer to as the spirit of government, and that's
yes,
complexity, bureaucracy, red tape-ism, where everything is 10 times more expensive and more complex than it actually needs to be in order for them to fulfill their constitutional functions. So the problem is that this institutional bureaucracy runs government. The systems are in place, are a part of that, and it serves that. It serves the institutional bureaucracy. It doesn't serve the people. So when it comes to making a change by electing some new commissioners, this is a minuscule degrees of change, when in reality what you have to do is, and this is where the radical part comes in, is you got to tear apart the entire institutional bureaucracy and rebuild it block by block.
Well, you need to make a crack in the door first.
Yeah, you do. But the thing is that we need to have people that are thinking in that vein all throughout government, because the headache that we have comes to us from Salem, and the headache that they have comes to them from Washington, D.C. And unless you have allies in the majority in both of those places that are working towards throwing out about half of the written verbiage and saying, listen, we're going to do this simple, we're going to do this small, we're going to do this inexpensive. Unless you have that, you're not really going to get anywhere. You're going to have this constant, slow slide in one direction or the other. And it's only been one direction really in the past 50 years. We're going more and more towards the left, where you have greater amounts of spending and no oversight, and both parties are doing that. It's not. I'm not making a blanket statement about Democrats here. I'm making a blanket statement about government is sliding to the left. It's not, and Republicans are going right along with that. So it isn't, you have two elements of the left. You have the very left wing, and then you have the left of center Republican. So I think that this is something that was never intended. If you read the Constitution and you get an idea that government was supposed to be small, and government was supposed to be unobtrusive and not a huge factor in everyday life, certainly not a huge expense to your everyday life, and it certainly has become that. And so I am hopeful that we will get people who think differently than these current people, because let me tell you, our current people, they are institutional bureaucrats personified. They really are. And to even a small degree that we can change that, I'll be happy about it. But the system that is in place is the big issue, and so I would hope that in addition to what new commissioners will want to do for the issues that we've all talked about during this campaign, that they also look at what part they can play in questioning Salem and saying, listen, you realize the way you're set up here makes it very, very difficult for us to run our business here efficiently and prudently for the sake of the people. Now, what are you going to do about that?
Well, it starts with being informed. It does start with being informed, and it's not just my responsibility and Mike's, it's also yours. And many of you have indicated that you have listened to that and you're doing it. That's really good. We're not reaching enough people, okay, to make a big difference. Maybe if the election turns out one way or some other way, that will change, because certainly we'll have access to a lot more information, including information about the budget that we've never had, and never will, because they're not answering our questions. They don't want to answer our questions. I mean, they've said it straight out. We're not going to answer your questions, Mr. Matthews. Okay, so we can do that. It is about being educated. Now, certainly if you think that you can be educated about what the facts are, like what's shown on videotape, just like the other day when Keijo reported that here's what happened, and then we showed you the tape, and that's not what happened at all. That's simply not what happened. And so when you've got news organizations, the IV News, give me a break, and Keijo and Courier, and they're covering up the news, or they're making stuff up, or they're simply not reporting stuff, well, then who? Well, look at what Keijo did. They made that story up. That's not what happened.
Yeah, right. No,
right.
That is true. That story was
fabricated.
Yeah, you know what, and that isn't even the right word, because they took the basis of a true story and then they just made certain assumptions about it that weren't true. Now whether that was something that they did willfully or
lazily.
I mean, it's really hard to say. But you know what? This is another thing that happens all over the country, is that you have a lot of press that is inclined in this way.
Yes.
That Keijo story was not an accurate representation of what went on there. And a lot of what happens in government that has an effect, it really does have an effect on everybody in the county, is not even mentioned by them in many cases. And so I guess to them, do they really believe that is an inconsequential piece of data that doesn't rise to the level of news, or do they
$100,000 cost overrun? $100,000 cost overrun. That's not the news.
Yeah.
So look, I've said this so many times. Mike and I have both said it. You shouldn't believe everything that we say, because when we give you our opinion, that's not unbiased. It's biased, absolutely, by the way that we think, and we'll tell you that, okay? But you should believe the videotape, unlike what Keith X says, well, you didn't shoot that, and legal counsel. You don't have that on tape. Yes, we do. No, you don't. That's our legal counsel.
Yeah, and typically when we give you a piece of video, it is long enough to to lay some sort of context to it. There isn't anything ambiguous. I just made up a new word.
Okay.
There's really nothing ambiguous about when we're playing 2 minutes of something. That gives you plenty of time to figure the context of something that's said in the middle of that, which is typically the topic, the subject.
And we'll tell you a little bit of the background, a little bit of what's happening there, and a little bit afterwards to lay it in a greater context. Now, admittedly, that's our point of view. Well, where's everybody else's point of view? They're writing that into a news story, or not writing it at all. At least we're telling you about this stuff. This is, honestly, now, I've said this so many times, the only place that you can come and look at what we are. We're just two guys. This is the only place where you can go to see certain kind of stories at all. And we know that we're occupying space in the heads of some of the bad guys, because they're quoting us, or they're saying stuff, or they're responding in these very strange ways to things that just don't make any sense at all. and to me, and occasionally saying stuff that just is entirely untrue, like Keith Eck did a couple of times recently. And you go, well, now wait a minute. Are the people concerned enough about that kind of government behavior that they want to do a change? And I've said, when you come back from 2 weeks on vacation and the first hour you were gone, the refrigerator breaks down. When you get back, are you going to replace some of the vegetables or all of the vegetables? I say it's time to, and that's one reason why we've got people like the head of the airports department, who is hired a private investigator to look into candidate. Really? Yeah. Probably not during company time, but still. But he knows that he's on his way out. He knows that he's doing stuff which is bad, and he's going to be handed his walking papers. So he's going to try to do everything he can to see that stops. Well, that's where most of this goofiness is. You're gay and you lived with something. No, that's not at all true. They'll say anything and do anything to stop the accounting for how did you spend that money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's an at-will employee, right?
Yes, he is, sir. Yes, he is, and he knows that. That means that if you are not pleased with the service, it's probably better just to say goodbye and thank you for your service, and that's the end of it, and no discussion. I don't like this no discussion thing, but if we had a legal counsel that could be depended upon, he would probably say, don't go into a bunch of detail. That would be a mistake. So if you see changes, that'll be one of the reasons why. Not wholesale changes to everything. I mean, you can't say goodbye to everybody, but there are a couple of people where you're going, oh man, don't tell us that we don't know where the money is or where it came from or where it's going. Don't tell us that. Don't tell us you're not going to report about how the money is being spent. You've been asked not to report? Who asked you not to report? And why would you say yes to that? So if you want change, there's a possibility of change. And if you think that you can change to another program that's going to tell you what's going on, please tell us about it. It's like that lady that said, I'm going to tell everybody where you get your funding. Oh, please tell us.
Yes. That's right. We want to know too.
Well, we didn't get into much of the city council meeting, and we are going to start with money. How much money is John Bowen and company getting to do all of these changes to the city without the permission of the people? And so we're going to tell you numbers because we have them. And we're going to start our next show with that. And just want to remind you what we're going to be doing on Tuesday night, 8:01. You can tune in just a little bit before that, and Mike will be holding forth, and then I'm going to be right there on the spot to tell you the instant results, no matter how it turns out. I've asked all these candidates, would you like to come on with us? Some of them are not going to show up because they're going to be a little upset, but hey, It's an election. Yeah, the people will determine.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Good night, everybody.